And that's one of the biggest ahas I see when starting to name and identify values with clients and leaders is that they're like, oh, that's why this is so difficult. Okay, that's why I'm so unhappy. Oh, that's why I leave depleted from my energy every single day. It like unlocks these ahas of self-understanding. And then you're able to take back control and you're able to say, okay, so if I'm working for someone that dishonors my value of transparency, how can I still honor it? Like, what can I do now? Now that I understand the cause of this, why this is so important to me, why this is such a big effect on me, what can I do? Life's too short for bad coffee or bad leadership. I'm Lindsay Yellin, executive leadership coach, coffee enthusiast, and former ad VP turned believer in leading from a place of possibility. On Unfiltered Leadership, we skip the buzzwords and dig into the messy, human, and powerful side of leadership with real conversations and practical takeaways. Now grab your mug. Let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to Unfiltered Leadership and Happy New Year. This is the first episode, the first solo episode, I'll say, of 2026. And I am just so thrilled to be greeting and talking to you in a fresh year. I hope you are feeling the energy and the potential and the possibility for yourself as we step into something new. So here's what I'm doing for the next couple of months in, I guess, business terms, Q1. I'm going to be sharing and releasing a handful of these kind of espresso shot episodes that are meant to be shorter and highly focused on what I feel are the most foundational tools, tips, quotes, resources, things that have been unbelievably foundational for me in my own journey of self-leadership, of leadership of others, in understanding myself. But not just for me, but I see with my clients, with the leaders that I bring these to in workshops, those that I coach one-on-one, people that I talk to, like these are the cream of the crop, right? The best of the best. And that if you came to me and you said, Lindsay, what's the work I should focus on? What are the things that I should remember? It would be these topics that I'm going to be sharing and detailing and bringing to you. And I'm so excited about that because I think it's not all about like trying to figure out everything you need to do in like the first couple of days or month of the year, but it's deciding where is my focus? What's the most important thing? How do I want to be showing up in the year? And then I'm hoping that these tools and these little espresso shots of information help build upon that to create the clarity or give you resources to say, this will help me accomplish X or Y or Z. And give you something to focus on to help build up your foundation and your focus and your resilience for the year ahead. So today's episode, well, to give you a preview, some of the topics that I'm going to be going into are values, which I'm going to talk about today, which is like, if there's one thing you do for your leadership style, for your self-understanding, for your self-growth, for trying to make a change in how you like walk through the world, it is values, 100% full stop. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to also get into topics around managing like self-limiting beliefs and why that's so critical and what that looks like, nervous system management, and like the greatest aha quote from a leader and how it relates to how to bring intention to how you show up in the world. And then I'm also going to take you through my framework of how to lead like a coach and like what does it actually mean to coach in leadership, why it is so important, and what to keep in mind if you're trying to show up more coach-like and unlock greater potential and connection in your team, which I think is such an incredible aspiration and focus area for any leader. So I'm excited about that. So those are like a few of the ideas and sampling of what's going to come. So let's dig into values because I could talk about values all day. It's like one of the most passionate things I have. I say that I'm a very values-driven coach because no matter who comes to work with me, we always start with values. Always, always. And I always am doing values work myself, especially in the new year. I actually ground my plan for the year, my goals, my reflections on the last year based on my values. So my values of possibility, values on dependability, on freedom, how did I honor them last year? What was that like? And then how this year do I plan to be more intentional about them? What have I learned? How have they evolved? I check in to see if my values have changed because they do. But I believe they are so foundational and critical in leadership because they give you like the insight into what drives you as a leader consciously or not. And they can be, as they're known to be, a compass to help guide you to be true to yourself. That is literally how we learn them in coaching and what they are from a metaphorical sense. They are a compass to help guide you to be true to yourself. And there's actually this quote from John C. Maxwell that he says, "Your core values are the deeply held beliefs that authentically describe your soul." Your core values are the deeply held beliefs that authentically describe your soul. And that is so true because we cannot pick our values. They're not aspirational. They're not, like, oh, I think it's important to value honesty. It's not how it works. Your values are just as unique and innate to you as like your fingerprints. And so the more you can uncover them and understand them, the more you're going to understand yourself, the more that you can set expectations with those around you about how you lead, how they can manage up to you, what's important to you, and they can become like just your greatest lens to put on when navigating all sorts of situations, which I'm going to get into. So to define them a little further, your values are your core beliefs and like the guiding principles that inform your life. And often when we don't know them, like they're doing that work anyways. But if you're not intentional to know what they are and the role that they're playing, there's a good chance that you aren't living as in alignment with your values, meaning you're making decisions or surrounding yourself with people and situations that are counterproductive or misaligned or dishonoring what is most important to you, to those guiding principles and those core beliefs. And that's where that can be a cause of a ton of tension and unhappiness and frustration and unfulfilled. Like all of that can come from misalignment in values with the environments that you're in, the jobs that you're working, the partners that you have, the friendships that you're in, the relationships with others, or just the decisions you're making for yourself. So, and that's one of the biggest ahas I see when starting to name and identify values with clients and leaders is that they're like, oh, that's why this is so difficult. Okay, that's why I'm so unhappy. Oh, that's why I leave depleted from my energy every single day. It like unlocks these ahas of self-understanding. And then you're able to take back control and you're able to say, okay, so if I'm working for someone that dishonors my value of transparency, how can I still honor it? Like, what can I do now? Now that I understand the cause of this, why this is so important to me, why this is such a big effect on me, what can I do? Or in a different sense, oh, that's why this job feels so great compared to the last place I worked. Or that's why this partner or this friend feels so easy. Oh, that's why I love taking pottery classes or going for walks every day because I value creativity so much. I didn't have that before. Nature is the most important thing to me, and I wasn't prioritizing that. So it allows you to take greater control and make decisions that are putting you on a path to honor yourself and your needs and your beliefs so much more. But if you don't know them, if you don't have your compass, then what's guiding you, right? Like it goes to external forces guiding you. You're outsourcing what it is you think you need, you want. You're just living in a place of reactivity because you don't have the attention and the awareness that you need to be totally present and understanding how the things around you are impacting you and how you are impacting the things around you. So that's like my preamble defining of values. I think it's important to know a couple things about them. One is they evolve as you do. Values change because you change, your life changes, your priorities change. Totally normal. So if you've done values work in the past, you're like, well, I know my values and they're like X, Y, and Z. They are charity and honesty and contribution or something. Okay, cool. Good chance that some of those might still be here. There's a chance that they might have evolved and you realize that like, charity actually has turned into like compassion and you honor that through, charity or giving back. So there's a lot of different ways that they can change and evolve. And they also can just be totally new values. So that's why it's so important to not just set them and forget them, but to be in a constant relationship with your values and how your life is orienting around them so that you can kind of understand that as your life is changing, as your priorities change, your beliefs change, your needs change, you're understanding how your values are aligning to that. And I think it's also important to know that values are not meant to be like a list of like 10. I think often when I talk to folks and they've done values work, they think about it, they list like 5+ values. It doesn't mean those things are not important to you, but if you have like 5 or like 10 different values to guide you, how do you actually know what's truly important? So Brene Brown challenges people to do 2 values. I usually keep it like 2 to 3. And it's important to know that, let's say you go through an exercise coming from today's conversation and you want to start to identify your values and you find like 7 or 8. It could be that a couple of them are related to one another. So you might have honesty and transparency and like collaboration on there. And you might realize that actually honesty and transparency are one of the same value. And um or there's integrity and honesty and accountability. And you're like, well, actually, integrity is a value and I honor it through being honest. I honor it through being accountable, right? So you can realize how ones are interconnected and just start to kind of like decipher which one's really like the master value and which ones are ways that you honor that value or ways that you express that value. So just giving you freedom that you can continue to explore, but also urging you and pushing you to be really focused on what your most important core values are in this moment and limiting that. It's also important to know that your values are expressed in everything that you do. You express them in your words and your actions and your decisions. That's why the consciousness of them is so important, because you are constantly either turning yourself away or towards your values in every single thing that you do. So the more that you know them, the more that you can be actively trying to turn yourself towards your values. So you're feeling more aligned, more happy, more free, more confident, more proud of yourself, even in difficult moments. And when you're feeling a lot of friction with yourself, it could be that you're not living in alignment with your values and you're disappointed and you recognize it, but you don't know what's causing it. So the more you know them, the more you can understand when you take steps that are not aligned to your values. Like transparency is important to you, being open is important to you, but you didn't have that hard conversation with your friend, or you haven't told them something that is important to you. You didn't stand up for yourself in some way and you're feeling really shitty about the situation. Well, you didn't really honor your value of being transparent and open. And that could be causing it. So now you get to decide what you want to do about it, right? So everything you're doing is an opportunity to honor your values or potentially a chance where you're not. And that's important to understand too. So values are not your morals. Values are not aspirational and you can't choose them. They are what is innate in you. So I want to talk a bit about what role they play. Why are they so important in self-leadership, in leading a team and leading yourself in your career? And the reason why I have found that values are one of like the greatest keys of unlocking like ahas in folks' leadership is because when you think about your leadership style and how you're showing up every day and leading yourself and wanting to lead others, it's all being driven by your values, whether you realize it or not. So your values help anchor your identity. So you understand really, as I mentioned, what's important to you, who are you, what defines you. Also in leadership can become a really clarifying decision-making lens. So if you're in a place where you have to make a hard decision, you can use your values to help you figure out how to move forward. So there's a client who, let's say your team made a mistake, okay, and on a piece of work for a client, and you don't know what to do. You could maybe not tell the client and get away with it. You guys are going to fix it and it's fine. Or you have to make a decision. Do we call the client? Do we own up to it? We maybe might make them pissed off and might take away some good faith. You don't know what to do. You have to make like this tough decision of how do you handle the situation. So you can use, all right, I'm going to use my value of integrity here as my lens. If I'm acting from a place of integrity of what it means to me, what would I do? Would I not call and just say, hey, just fix it. I think we're fine. They'll never know. Let's not do it again. Or are you going to call them, own up to it, let them know what you're going to do, and then move forward? Most likely integrity, you're going to make the phone call, right? It helps you make decisions that are most aligned to what's important to you, and what's going to honor what you feel is the best way to walk through the world for yourself. I think it's also important to recognize that with values, they're defined differently for everyone. So myself and my good friend Ronnie, we talk about values a lot when we're doing our workshop work, and we both have a value of integrity is something that we talk about, but we define it very differently. I also have value of, I mentioned like dependability, which if you have a value of dependability, my guess is the way that we talk about it, the way that it's expressed and perceived and lived is going to be different. So it probably means that we're quite values aligned. Like, okay, it's both important to show up and be dependable, but the way that we really truly understand it might be a little bit different. And that's okay. That's great. Like I said, they're as unique to you as possible. That's why it is important not just to name your values, but to define them, to understand them, to look and see how they show up in your life, how you live them, how you expect them from other people. Like 360, understand what this like little word of yours means for you, because it's going to be quite different. And the more you understand it, the more you can live in it and spot it and understand it. Okay. So back to the role they play in leadership. They anchor your identity as a leader. They help define your style. I am a leader that most important to me is to be transparent, to have high integrity, to show a lot of respect. I'm a leader who's all about compassion and empathy and patience. And I really value play. I value humor. I value creativity, right? If you understand those things, you can see how they translate into how you want to show up as your best self in leadership and the type of leader you want to be known for. They help you clarify those really difficult decisions. They help define your leader brand, similar to the identity. But if you think about what you want to be known for as a leader, and then you ground that in your values, and then you start to show up living in those values constantly, even speaking them like, hey, I'm a leader that values play. So we're going to be doing X, Y, and Z as a team. I'm someone that's all about creativity. So we're going to have a lot of curiosity. We're going to like create an environment that really fosters, supports, and champions creativity. I am somebody where integrity is key. So I'm going to hold you super accountable to what integrity means for this team and the work that we're doing. So it can help you be like the base of your leadership identity and brand. It can help you fuel consistency and authenticity, because if that's what you're going to be known for, you can consistently always be transparent, always fuel collaboration, always fuel that creativity. I just recently sat down and had a conversation with my boss at Rebel, Ryan, and actually one of his values is consistency, and probably quality and consistency is how to honor that. And he is so fierce with that. He is very strict in terms of what quality means and defining it and holding people accountable to that. And then consistency is the marker of success. And if the milk isn't good enough, you dump it and he celebrates it. If you are one day acting off and not being very friendly to the customers, he holds you accountable to that. Like consistency to bring quality is like something he values more than anything. And he holds everybody accountable to that. And that is like so true to his brand, to his business that he's building, and to what he expects of his team. So it fuels consistency as well as authenticity. And it can guide you in like the really tough situations when you have to make those tough calls, as I mentioned before. If you don't know how to handle a situation, you don't know how to show up for somebody, using the values as those lenses is really going to help guide you. So they are a leadership must-have. And I have seen it time and time again with the leaders I work with, also with myself. When I was in my most senior leadership position, when I started to go through coach training and learned values, and it was like this massive light bulb. I was working with one of the most difficult clients through values. At the time, a big value of mine or values was like respect and transparency were two of them, and empathy. And I was working with a client that I realized really was like very disrespectful in a lot of their actions. And I was constantly triggered and frustrated and like didn't know how to manage them, didn't know how to guide my team. I was all over the place. I named that my value was respect. I understood, oh, I'm constantly feeling disrespected by this client. And by being able to just name it and understand it, I was able to have conversations with my boss on how to handle it. I was able to determine how I wanted to respond, which I'm still going to treat them with respect. I realized that I could go to my team and like express things differently to them and respect my team and say how we are going to still show up with respect despite this situation. And even had different conversations with my clients about wanting to have more mutual respect. So, and also the other thing I learned with the value of transparency, I started to lean into that so hard. Talk about leadership branding. I was all about transparency. I called out when I was being transparent. I called out other people when they were not transparent. I just started to use it in my language, like in my vernacular all the time around transparency being important. And I remember my boss at the time was like, wow, you're one of the most, like, you are so consistent in what's important to you. And I'll never forget that because I'm like, oh shit, this works. This really works. And they became more transparent with me. And I got known for that. So it's really critical. So I'm going to share a couple other examples of how like values might be showing up for you, so you can start kind of understanding the role they might be playing in how you're walking through your day-to-day life. So one I see a lot is that folks clash with their bosses or someone on their team or someone in leadership. And once they're able to identify what value it is that's misaligned, like, for example, right now, a lot is transparency. Leadership teams are not being very transparent, especially around all the uncertainty, and not being very respectful. And it might feel like they're never really bringing you information. They're never bringing you in. You're in the dark. You're constantly unknown. But if transparency is so important to you, that's a major, major clash. And that could be really what's going on and what's frustrating you so much. So you're like, okay, now I know, being in a transparent work environment and with a boss who gives me feedback, who is willing to have open conversation if they don't have the answers, brings me in on things that are appropriate, that help me be successful, like, that's critical for me. So then you can use that information, whether in your current job, to like go back and have a conversation with them and say, hey, this is really important to me. This is where I'm struggling. Or when looking for a new job, looking for new roles, thinking and talking to your future manager and colleagues, you can then try to gauge as much as possible to see if they value that, or that's something that they would honor for you, that they also respect. So on the opposite side of things, maybe you're in a new role or a new team and you're feeling so much lighter and motivated and happier, and you're feeling more valued. You're like, this is great. And it turns out that now you're in an environment that really values showing a lot of appreciation, and an environment that has tons of collaboration in it. And you know that actually those are things that you deeply, deeply value. So now every day you get to work and collaborate with the colleagues that are very open and showing how much they appreciate with you and giving you feedback and praise. And that's embedded into the culture. And you're like, oh, wow, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I need. So it can work both ways in revealing tensions and why things aren't working and why you might be miserable, but also why things might work, why you feel great, and why some situations make you feel light and happy and motivated and engaged and valued, probably because your values are being honored, right? Also thinking about holding boundaries with values. If you realize that creativity is the value of yours and you're not honoring it in the way you need to, for example, you want to start taking a pottery class or singing lessons. And so you tell your team that on Wednesdays you're leaving at 4:45 for this class, and they say, sure, no problem. And then every Wednesday, once a week, you're teaching Pilates or throwing, clay on a wheel, and you just realize that things start to balance a little bit more in your life. It's like, oh, I use values to help make a decision and then set a boundary of what I require to be happier and to honor what's important to me. It can be within work and out of work too, right? Okay, so you're probably wondering, how do I uncover these values, Lindsay? How do I name them for myself? So I'm going to take you very quickly through my process that I do with clients. There are, like I mentioned, Brene Brown has a process through Dare to Lead. Like, she does a lot on values. So she has a process. You can follow it online. She has a good podcast about how to live in your values. So you can go and look into that. I also want to say that I offer too, just like few session packages to help people do this, clarify their values, define them, understand them, challenge them, like really get in them, and then like evaluate your life and moving forward what you need to do to live in greater alignment with your values. So if you want to partner and work through this, I'm here to do that with you, because like I said, I think it's like the most powerful work you can do. But here is like a 101, okay? So first you want to start by getting super, super curious with yourself. Maybe just from like me talking and you hearing, you're like starting to pinpoint things that are important to you. But I love to start from a place of just like brainstorming and curiosity with these like thought-provoking questions. So asking yourself questions like, what are the beliefs that you hold most important? What brings you the most joy or contentment in your life? What are you willing to make sacrifices for? And even thinking about what frustrates you the most, right? So asking some of these questions of like, how do I like to spend my time? What are the situations or the environments that make me feel most alive and excited and accepted and happy or energized? What are the ones that don't? What are moments in my life where everything felt so aligned? Okay. And as you go through and brainstorm and answer some of these questions, you can start to then collect the themes. So this is what I love to do when I'm working through this with other people, is I like to pick out, what am I hearing that is like continuing to pop up? Okay, they get really, really upset when someone is like disrespectful and mean for no reason to other people, and like kick people while they're down. And the belief they hold most important is that like everybody deserves to be respected, that, that empathy is so important, to be kind to people, that kindness is a choice. Like, you kind of can see here that there is something here around kindness and respect and compassion or empathy. This is like a theme within what's important to them. So I would kind of highlight that and put that and say, okay, there's something here. And then, okay, there's something here, another theme around learning and growth. That's one that comes up a lot too. Like always wanting to um, improve, wanting to take classes, wanting to be challenged, wanting to learn, take in new information, like hungry for knowledge. That could be another area that might be around growth or learning or something around those lines. So you want to start to find and look at your themes that you're seeing from answering the questions and then just start to name them. I want to give you full freedom that your values can be named anything you want. My core value is possibility. If you look at lists of values that you might find on the internet, you're not going to see possibility on there. That's okay. And like, I love that. And it was a combination of I had a value of adventure, I had a value of freedom, I had a value of like this idea of like making the most of it and like living in the moment. And I just realized through the work with my own coach that like this it really embodied it truly was just possibility. And those are all different ways that I describe it, define it, I honor it through exploration and adventure and living and being present. And that's what worked for me. So it can be something that you see on a list. It can be something that you totally create and define on your own and let yourself be open to that name changing, just sit with the concept and the theme of this value of yours as kind of like grouping of ideas. And then in time, it'll be revealed the more that you understand it. Okay. So, because I also want to give an example, I had a client who we were naming a value of security. They had named it was something that they valued. And I pushed on that because sometimes when I see values of things like security, I wonder if there's a different value underneath that because security sometimes feels like it's very important, but it's like, what are you trying to feel secure for? Feels a little fear driven to me versus very like core belief driven. And so the more we pushed on understanding where security was coming from, we uncovered that the value was freedom and that actually they were trying to get security so that they could have freedom. But in trying to be secure, they actually were living totally out of alignment with freedom and they were not free at all. So that's what was causing so much tension. So as soon as they just reframe that, we're like, I value freedom. How do I create freedom for myself and honor that? Everything changed. So there's a lot of possibility here. To wrap this for you, um, I do want to encourage you to spend some time reflecting on those questions, getting super curious with yourself, looking into resources and other podcasts and books around values and what yours could be, thinking about how they impact how you show up and lead and communicate and build relationships with other people. And most importantly, observe. Observe if you start to name a value of honesty or empathy or authenticity. How does that show up for you? How do you notice that? Like, just be very curious and observant of yourself in your day to day life. And how often do you think you're actually honoring that for yourself? And how often do you realize that you're not? And that could be a source of something where you could try to put some energy to shift and take back control and try to live in a life more alignment with that value and see how that changes how you feel and how you walk through the world. So, and speak it. Tell people, as I said, live it, talk about it in leadership. If you want to be known for these things, then align not just your actions, but your words to them. And if you want to do this in partnership with someone, reach out. I would love nothing more than to work through your values with you and offer you greater resources and guidance and collaboration as you uncover this for yourself. But I wish you the same clarity and freedom and ahas and just like self understanding that I got and that I see with clients all the time through values. So good luck, have fun, and I'll catch you next time.